RMJ Movie Reviews back again with a movie review of Alita, Battle Angel. Man, oh man, oh man! I want to first off say that I am familiar with the material that this movie came from. I might have came past it here and there a little bit, but I was never into the closest I was into the Japanimation thing and the anime stuff and all of that was the Guyver, which is pretty underrated. I actually got Guyver 2 in my collection, Dark Hero. So I like Guyver 1 and 2, and I watched the cartoon a little bit, but that's the closest I ever came. A little bit of the Dragon Ball Z stuff, but I'm a '90s teenager, so I'm familiar with that whole wave. And I used to watch this show that came on MTV called what was it called? Was it called Liquid TV or something like that? They used to have a lot of that stuff. But anyway, I had no anticipation for this movie at all. Not saying I was with it or against it. I had no hostility nor any kind of excitement for it. I just was like, okay, it looks cool. So all this debate about her eyes look funny and this, that, or the other, I did not care. But I'm okay with this genre. I actually like the sequel to Blade Runner more than I like the original Blade Runner. But I love those. Those are visual eyegasm movies. Ghost in the Shell, I thought was okay with Scarlett Johansson. I never saw Ultraviolet or what was the other one? There was another one with Charlize Theron that came out. Eon Flux. That's the cartoon I used to watch on MTV. I never saw the Eon Flux movie. Never had no desire to it. So I'm here nor there about this genre. There is visual eyegasm, so I'll check them out. But needless to say, I had great fun with this movie. The thing that ultimately attracted me to the project was not even really so much the trailers, was more the fact that I knew Jim Cameron was producing and that Robert Rodriguez was directing. Robert Rodriguez, I know, he's done one of my all-time horror classics, hybrid movies, From Dusk Till Dawn. From Dusk Till Dawn, I just think is great. And I actually enjoy From Dusk Till Dawn more than I enjoy Desperado. Some of y'all can debate with me about that. Once Upon a Time in Mexico, there's a lot of stuff reached a little bit kind of far with that, but there's still a lot of really cool action sequences in that movie that I really like. The Grindhouse Tarantino experiment, I really like pieces of his segment, even though they reached a little bit far with that. And the first Sin City I really liked. I never even saw the second one. So when I knew those two were combined together, I was like, this could be an interesting little movie. And that's basically what it came out to be. It is a fun, entertaining movie. And I was completely involved. Sucked in from beginning to end. It basically tells the story of this, she's a cyborg who's basically been nursed back to health by oh my god, guys, what's his name? Christoph Waltz, if I'm saying his name right, the guy from Django Unchained, and she's basically trying to figure out who she is. Christoph Waltz, he's trying to basically reform a connection that he lost in this cybernetic futuristic world. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed it on a science fiction level. Again, I'm not a hardcore science fiction guy, but if you immerse me in this world and make me believe this world, which I did in this film, and make me more interested in what this world is about and what's going to happen next, I'm in. This movie did it. I really like the characters. I've heard some movie reviewers who say like they didn't think the characters, they thought the characters were evolving to an extent and then the movie kind of lost its place. I'd partially agree with that, but the movie was so much fun I didn't care. I really liked Alita, the Battle Angel. I really liked her as a character. I thought she was the cutest little thing, just in terms of just the way she looked with those big, gigantic ET eyes. And also, she's just a very sweet, endearing character. She's very sweet. Her and Christoph Waltz, they have a very good relationship, at least really kind of in the earlier and the middle portions of the movie. I really liked their relationship. It wasn't overly mushy. I thought it was played just right, just enough. I liked her and the relationship with the guy that she befriends, who ultimately is basically her love interest, her boyfriend. I liked his character. I kind of liked his motivation in the movie because there's like this city, where they live is kind of like the junk pile. You know what I mean? Think Alien 3, where Ripley went to find Bishop. That's basically their world, you know. And then there's like this like Cloud City from Empire Strikes Back, where Orlando was, like this place that, you know, people are trying to get up there. And I kind of liked his motivation because he's kind of like almost like metaphorically like the drug dealer kid who lives in the hood, who they think doing this side hustle that may not be the most honorable thing, but that's all they know, and they know that's the only way to make a means to an end to get a better life, you know, from where he sits. I liked his motivation. Mahershala Ali, that's my dog now. He's the new Wesley. He's the new Wesley for this generation, man. And he kind of looked like Wesley in Blade in this movie. He kind of a little bit had Wesley mannerisms, like you know, Passenger 57, New Jack City Wesley. Because Wesley has like a certain way that he kind of walks, you know what I mean? And he kind of had a little bit of that. I really liked it. Now, the one thing I will say, I disagreed with, there's an issue with the villains in this movie, is that he's got Mahershala Ali, the beautiful Jennifer Connelly, who I still have fond memories of Opportunity Knocks and Higher Learning. Those of us old school people remember Jennifer Connelly and Opportunity Knocks. Good Lord. So I had kind of issues with her character not having enough dimension to her. Mahershala Ali, he's the heavy, but then there's another heavy, and I don't even want to talk about the spoiler of the big heavy guy. I think they should have just left it at Mahershala Ali. I kind of felt his villain got a little bit more one-dimensional because they got this other heavy, which, man, I don't know why they did that. I mean, I understand. They're trying to go to another movie. Unfortunately, after this box office returns I saw this weekend, I don't think there'll be another movie, which is sad because this movie is really a lot of fun. And I think it does deserve a sequel. But ain't nobody going to put up all that money if, you know, you only make $30 million on a $170 million budget. But I think the fact of having like too many villains, a la Batman Returns, is kind of what made Mahershala Ali's character suffer. But as far as the minions, the villains that are like doing the dirty work, oh, those guys were all great. They very much reminded me of early 90s low budget post-apocalyptic action movies like Cyborg, or I'm gonna go real old school, y'all. American Cyborg Steel Warrior, I think was the movie. Those of y'all who are B movie action fanatic will remember that one. It reminded me of stuff like that, and kind of all those B rip-off Mad Max movies from that time. There's very little smidgets of that in this film. And the villains in this film are, at least the guys on the ground level, they're very, I mean, the first guy, who I wish he would have lived more throughout the movie, I actually think he's pretty terrifying. You guys might know which guy I'm talking about. He's kind of got these hook hands. He creeped me out. He was terrifying. And I wish he would have lived more throughout the movie, or maybe because the movie's PG-13, he might have maybe been too strong. But I mean, maybe it just, his look is just, it's really creepy. I wish and what he does is really creepy, and the way it's presented in the film, it's unsettling, man. He's a creepy villain. And all the villains in this movie, at least the guys on the ground level, are what they should be. They should be charismatic, threatening villains, and I was all threatened by them. One thing I like in the movie, so we got the villains, we got the good guys, Christoph Waltz and the boyfriend and Alita. I think they're all warm, sweet characters. All the good guys in this movie are very warm. I like the good guys, and I thought the villains were formidable threats. Now let's get to the action. Man, now here's the one thing. Now, when I saw the previews for this movie, I was thinking, this looks like every other special effects thing, people flying through the air. And that's kind of digressing a tad bit. Although I liked Aquaman, brainless, eyegasm fun. But here's the deal. Since the movie was so long, after a while, the action just became, with all these movies, DC and Marvel movies, is just this. And people going and shooting lasers out of their hand. No technique, no battle, no actual skills. You understand? What I liked about this was Alita. There was actual fighting style. I mean, real techniques. Like, you can see the part where she's like training and she's like, I was like, okay, that's real stuff. That's real martial arts. Legit techniques. Like, it's a scene where, and Robert Rodriguez has a nice little tip of the hat from Till Dusk Till Dawn, because they go in this bar, and the camera angle basically is the exact same camera angle from George Clooney going, this is my kind of place. And it does the 360 around the room. And basically, this bar that they go to is basically from Dusk Till Dawn in the future. It's the exact same bar, exact same layout. Jeff Fahey, the great underrated character actor, pops up to make a cameo. He's actually basically Sex Machine, essentially, without the gun thing between his legs. Cool little thing. Jeff Fahey has gotten up there in age, man. I was like, damn, that's Jeff Fahey. But in that scene, there's where the bounty hunter guy tests her, and she does this technique to the throat and pulls him. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. So it's not just people flying. I mean, and although there is a lot of that kind of just zoom flying stuff, but a lot of the action is legit fighting techniques mixed with the flying around superhero stuff. So I really enjoyed that aspect. And that's Robert Rodriguez. Because Robert Rodriguez, throughout all his movies, he tries to do a little bit of imitation of John Woo with some traditional, just American action. But Robert Rodriguez is always incorporating genuine movie fantasy gunplay with actual gunplay technique, and movie fantasy fighting with actual technique fighting, and I like that. I like that. I really enjoyed this movie, man. I just really thought it was a lot of fun. If there was any shortcoming, I would say it was the kind of the three main heavy bad guys thing, and I thought that took away from Mahershala Ali, because Mahershala Ali is so badass. I thought he should have just been the main heavy, and maybe if we could have did maybe a little bit of a like maybe like a Shredder and Krang kind of little allude to a bigger villain, but they give the bigger villain a little bit too much say in this part of the story. They should have saved that for a second one, but there ain't gonna be no second one after this weekend box office, I can tell you that. But which is sad, because I really like this movie. But in the ending was a tad bit anticlimactic, a tad bit. But by that point, I was having so much fun. And one thing I do like about this movie is that it really reminds me of I will say that this movie is kind of akin to a lot of the like the sword and sorcery adventure movies of the 80s, like Neverending Story, Willow, Big Trouble in Little China. Movies, I'd say, in particular, I would say like Willow, Big Trouble in Little China, or any one of Spielbergian's movies from back then, where those are movies when something happens in the beginning and you're just hooked. You're just hooked. You're hooked, and it automatically pulls you into that world. You're in. I can't explain it. There's something about, when a movie is good when it just pulls you right into the world and into the story. Not just, just the characters pull you in. You're automatically with them. I think that was one of the brilliant, and I'm digressing a little bit, but that was one of the brilliant things about, I think that Steven Spielberg, younger Steven Spielberg, and James Cameron did in a lot of his movies, where they could just, Also, I say George Lucas and Ron Howard. Those are directors. Robert Zemeckis. They just create these characters and these fun scenarios that you're just pulled in. You're pulled in. And that's what this movie did for me. I was in when I met the girl, and then when I met her boyfriend character, and they were doing the little fake basketball game thing. I was pulled in. I wasn't in the theater watching the movie. I was in there. I was in that world, man. I love that's the stuff that that's just and I'm gonna digress a little bit. Then I'm gonna shut up in the review. But I never forget back in the day when Willow came out at the movie theater in the 80s, guys. And I remember me and my whole family, my grandparents and my mother and sister, we all went to go see Willow when that came out with Val Kilmer. And I just remember, even when I saw Willow for the first time, I just remember being sucked in. I remember my mother took me to see Hook with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman. I was sucked in, just sucked into it. I'm going to digress even further, then I'm going to end it, guys. I remember my parents going to take me to see Dances with Wolves with Kevin Costner, which I was like 9 years old, so I had no desire to see Dances with Wolves, especially with the poster with Kevin Costner with the black and white face and a fire and wolves. I was like, oh, hell no. And man, Dances with Wolves was great. I love that movie as a 9-year-old, and I still think that's a great movie. But that's another movie when I remember my parents were like, let's go see this, and I was trying to fake sleep in the theater. And I'll never forget when Kevin Costner went out there and tried to get killed in the opening shot. I was in. I was sucked in. I was in the movie. That's just fantastic filmmaking. And I really think that this is a great movie. I'm disappointed that more people didn't go and see it, because the theater I saw it in was it was a lot of people. It wasn't full, but there was a lot of folks in that theater. It was a pretty big crowd. And I went to an early show around 11:30. I really, really highly enjoyed this movie, man. People kind of giving it a hard time. I just think they're wrong, man. It was a good movie. You guys go out and support this movie. Hopefully support it enough so we can get a second one. But I enjoyed Alita. Go out and see it. It's fun and it's warm just enough. Might be a little bit terrifying for the younger kids, maybe. If you were the kind of kid I was in the 80s and early 90s, it won't terrify you. But anyway, thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Don't forget to hit the little bell and leave comments down below about it. Alita. Man, great fun, guys. RMJ Movie Reviews. I will see you soon.